of us in uniform will salute, present arms.
Supported other countries throughout the world to preserve their freedom. We recognize that without the dedication and service of our military, the peace that we enjoy every day will be in jeopardy. So we thank you. God, we also ask that you bless this time that we've set aside to celebrate and honor those who have faithfully served. May the ceremony honor those who have served and inspire us to all continue to respect, support, and encourage those who are currently enlisted. May you bless our country and those who have defended it. Amen.
Please be seated. Before we go on, too, I want to recognize the Ewing Master Singers. We have a small group from them. They did the back. They're not done. We're going to have a small performance from them later. Right now, I'd like to bring up to the stage Brigadier General Ducko for some opening and welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Rick. And thank you for everyone coming out today for our Veterans Day ceremony. You know, the Patriotic Committee has undergone a few hiccups this year, starting with the fire at the Senior Community Center, but that has not stopped us from operating. You know, we have a great bunch of volunteers, and I want to thank the Patriotic Committee for hanging in and supporting this wonderful town we live in. So, if you will please give the Patriotic Committee a nice round of applause. And we had to deal with the weather. So yesterday we made a conscious decision to conduct the ceremony indoors in this beautiful room, so everybody can be comfortable. And I'm happy to greet our speaker, John Cosgrove, who I had the pleasure of spending a lot of years with, and former commander of the unit I used to be assigned to, so that's great. But yesterday we had a nice luncheon at Hollowbrook, where we honored the veterans, gave them a nice meal. We gave them a shirt. The dancers were there, they did a great job. And we showed a video on the Greatest Generations, and it was a great day. So 2 days in a row, I had to put my uniform on. So, I decided to send a bill to the Pentagon so I can get paid. Not really. But I just want to thank Rick and the committee and Mary Ann. You know, they're wonderful people to work with. We've been back to the community center twice to try and salvage some things out of our office. Fortunately, that part of the building that wasn't exposed to fire, just a lot of soot and just not clean. Anyway, patriotic committee will move on. Mary Ann will work out of her house. We'll continue to handle all the events for the rest of the year. Our next event will be the tree lighting. Well, our next event, tree lighting on the 4th of December. And then on the 7th of December, we'll be back at the high school to do Pearl Harbor. So with that, I turn the program back over to Rick. And once again, have a happy Veterans Day. And also, I want to wish a happy birthday to the Marine yesterday, 247 years.
Thank you, General Dutto. So my name is Rick Rutkowski. I'm your Master of Ceremonies for today. I get to see the rain. Everybody's facing me, but I can see that it is raining right now, so I'm glad we're in here. Thank you for attending today's Veterans Day ceremony in the bad weather. We commemorate Veterans Day each year on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the date that the guns fell silent at the end of World War I. For those of us that remember our grade school history, at least my grade school did, it was to be the war that ended all wars. And unfortunately, that has not been true. In every age since, freedom has been threatened, and new generations of young men and women have stepped forward in defense of our nation. Today, there are over 17 million veterans in the United States, and another 2.4 million under arms today in uniform. Today's force is less than 1%, the ones in uniform, less than 1% of our population. And when you count all the veterans that are out there, it's 7% of our population. So the percentage of the population of veterans will continue to decline, however, as World War II, Korea, and Vietnam veterans move on to their final resting place. We have passed the torch of eternal vigilance over for 50 years as an all-volunteer force. Today, across America, men and women have answered the call to serve and have joined a brotherhood with the present and the past veterans of the United States. God bless them all. Veterans Day is different than Memorial Day. Memorial Day is really a more solemn day. Veterans Day is more of a celebration of our veterans. And I recall once being in a PT formation and the sergeant major up there saying, you gotta be here, you gotta be here, and the general in the back saying, these are not the ones you gotta talk to, because they're there. You all here, talk to your friends and neighbors, get others out that might not be able to get out and spread the word. Say, if we only say thank you to each other, that's still something. But recognize a veteran. It doesn't take long to say welcome home or I appreciate your service. And I do recognize some of the dancers from yesterday in our audience. Yesterday at the senior dinner, there's a, what's the name of the group? Young at Park Dancers. And they dressed up patriotically and they did some dancing to Susan Martin. And I think I was told your average age is quite a bit. It's like 90s. So, I mean, these women were doing quite well out there on the dance floor, and we really appreciated that yesterday. So today is a little different. Again, we don't have the stage full of everybody behind me, so some of the folks I'll recognize are out there. And I'll start here right now, though. Here's General Cosgrove. Colonel Cosgrove, who is our keynote speaker. And please hold your applause till the end. We've already met General Dutto, the president of our patriotic committee. We have Mayor Steinman, the current council president, Sarah Stewart, behind there is I never get these names. He's an E9. It's the highest rank you can be in the Navy. Chief Joe Apolito, chief, but he was a command chief. Also.
Command master,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
command master chief. And we have senior chief master chief. We're just sergeant major in the Army. Harry Johnson from the Air Force. And out in the audience, we do have every one of our council members. We have Kathleen Wooler, Dave Schroep. I know Kevin Baxter was here somewhere. There's Kevin right there. And Jennifer Keith Maloney. We do have Lucy Walters, county commissioner, in the audience. And he looked like somebody important. The way he was dressed walking in, and I didn't know who he was, but our new Ewing Township School Superintendent is here, Dave Gentile. And I think that's we have quite a few other members of our patriotic committee here, though. Joe Schmelz is here, Bill Tuttle, Joe's mom, Sylvia. Oh, Mark Weatherby, spelled B-E-E.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wet herb tea.
And Tony is back there and has his father with him this time. So, and Mary Ann is all the way back there in the back, right now. I think that's everybody from our committee. And we do have Rob Green from the IT department here in the township filming this. So it will be on the township website at some point today. If you want to watch it again or tell your friends you sang and show off to your family and friends, or someone that didn't get to come and thought we weren't having a ceremony, you could tell them we had it and they could view it on the website. Again, thank you for coming. And now, I think I have the pleasure of introducing Mayor Simon for some remarks.
Thank you, Colonel, and good morning to everyone here, although that clock says 12:15, I think it's only 11. I have to get on our maintenance staff to make sure that we change that clock. I do also want to recognize our Fire Director, Mark Strauss, who's in the audience, our Community Affairs Director, Ted Forrest, who's out there, and especially want to recognize my business administration, Jim McMahon. He is always there, helping out, making my life a little easier, although sometimes it's not so easy. But I really, really do appreciate it. You know, we stand here year after year after year, and we honor our veterans. And we have to keep giving thanks to them, because without them, we would not be enjoying the freedoms that we enjoy today. But I think there's going to be a time, and hopefully a time and a place, where we won't add new veterans, because there's no need for that. We can find peace in this world. But it just doesn't seem that that's quite going to happen. I guess as soon as there's two human beings together, there's conflict. But again, you know, as we go through life, we should, again, never, ever forget our veterans, our World War II, our World War I, our Korean Wars, our Vietnam Wars, conflict in the Middle East, all of that. We should never forget, because we keep sending men and women in harm's way, and they deserve the respect that they desperately need to be preserved, so that they can be recognized, and that their actions weren't in vain, or feel that they were kind of left out in the cold. We had that during the Korean War. Those veterans from the Korean War suffered more than anybody else, because they were basically dishonored when they came back to this country, and everybody kind of turned their back on them. Fortunately, that has turned around, and finally there's recognition for those particular individuals, which I said thank God for, because basically they fought the hardest fight. I know World War II was tough, but they came back as heroes. Unfortunately, our Vietnam veterans did not at that particular point in time. So I'm hoping that that will turn around. Again, I'm proud to be here. Always been proud to be here. Always proud to have, supported the Patriotic Committee, during their time. As you can see, with all the changes we've made to Veterans Park, and will continue to change the face of Veterans Park over the years to come. The tragedy also occurred, obviously, as everybody knows, the burning of the community center. I can tell you emphatically, right here and now, we will rebuild bigger, and we will rebuild better. That will absolutely happen. As soon as we can stop fighting with our insurance company, we'll be ready to go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. God bless, and God bless America.
Thank you, Mayor Simon. Our next speaker is the current council president, Sarah Stewart.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here this morning, even in the weather, and for joining us in this important remembrance of Veterans Day, to commemorate those who have served our country with such distinction and honor. Like others here, I join in my gratitude to the Patriotic Committee, the mayor, the administration, the council, the township employees, the volunteers who make this annual event possible, in addition to our other events during the year, for Independence Day, Memorial Day, September 11th, Pearl Harbor Day, and more. I'm really proud to live in a community that takes time to gather and acknowledge these days in such meaningful ways with all of you. As I was reflecting on what to share with you all today, I happened on some thoughts from the Air Force that really resonated with me. And they said in part, whether you wear the uniform today or wore it decades ago, veterans represent a fundamental truth. It is not the powerful weapons that make our military the greatest in the world. It's not the sophisticated aircraft, missiles, rockets, satellites, or cyber technology systems that make us the most advanced. The true strength of our military is the spirit and skill of those in service, seen in the men and women who have worn and now wear the uniform of our nation's military. As Rick suggested earlier, this is the 104th year that as a country we've celebrated those who have served our country in uniform. Much has changed in the 104 years since Armistice Day was first observed. Now we honor not just servicemen, but also servicewomen. Our wars are not fought with cannons, but with drones. The war to end all wars didn't end war at all. Soldiers have fought and died all over the globe. But through this past century, the purpose of Veterans Day has remained the same, to say thank you. As Rick suggested, more than 12% of the U.S. population served in the armed forces during World War II. That's down to less than 0.5% today. Guaranteeing that more Americans are not personally acquainted with a soldier, a sailor, an airman, a Marine, a Coast Guardsman. At the same time, as Franklin Delano Roosevelt once noted, those who have long enjoyed such privileges as we enjoy forget in time the men that have died to win them. And that's why we're here today, to remember, to honor, to recall the lives that were cut short in service of our country, and to be grateful to those who have given freely of their time and their talent to serve our country. To reflect on how the privileges that we enjoy today would not be possible without them. It's also something more. In 1954, in a proclamation encouraging all citizens to observe Veterans Day, President Eisenhower said, on that day, let us solemnly remember the sacrifices of all those who fought so valiantly, on the seas, in the air, and on foreign shores, to preserve the heritage of our freedom. And let us reconsecrate ourselves to the task of promoting enduring peace, so their efforts shall not be in vain. Let us live our lives and celebrate this day in full memory of those who have served and those that we have lost. And let us also live our lives in service and pursuit of the peace and justice that might endure and endure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I now have the privilege of introducing our guest speaker today, Colonel John Cosgrove. Colonel Cosgrove is the Director of Staff to the New Jersey Air National Guard. And I told him out in the hallway, he's there every day, so the National Guard, is not a full-time operation, but somebody's got to be there full-time. So he's the one taking care of the Air Force for the Adjutant General on a day-to-day basis. So it's a pretty big job that he has. In that position, he is the principal advisor to the Adjutant General of the state of New Jersey on all matters concerning the 108th Wing, the 177th Fighter Wing, subordinate units, civilians, and all matters pertaining to the New Jersey Air National Guard. He was commissioned in the Air Force Academy in 1992 and has completed over 2,700 flight hours and commanded at every level you can except for general officer in the Air Force. So please welcome General Cosgrove.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thanks for having me. Council, appreciate that. The Beach Job Committee. It's excellent to be here. As senior leaders in the military, we love to go out to our local communities to celebrate Veterans Day. And I don't know if you guys have seen me the last couple of summers, I've been in a different uniform. It's like a t-shirt, shorts, pumping up furniture for my daughter, because she's at TCNJ right now. I'm one of you guys in the local communities. I appreciate that. Veterans Day is super important in my family. Last year, as a gift, I gave my parents a series of pictures in a frame. And I have both my grandfathers were in World War I and World War II, and I have their pictures. In fact, my grandfather on my mom's side was torpedoed and actually sunk, and he used to walk around with shrapnel on his back. When I was a little kid, following around and doing chores around the house. And then my dad joined the Navy after high school in the 50s after the Korean War. And my mom was a nurse in the Vietnam War. I decided I wanted to fly and be an astronaut and be a pilot, so I decided to join the Air Force in 1988. I was 17 years old when I raised my hand. I did those 4 years. I've been in the military 34 years since. My oldest boy went to the Air Force Academy, graduated a couple of years ago. He's a pilot right now flying tankers in Florida. My daughter's at TCNJ, no military aspirations, I think. He's trying to convince her. And my youngest son, who's almost 21, is taking private pilot lessons right here at Mercer County Airport because he wants to join the Guard. So our family is big into the military, and we really appreciate, and on behalf of Brigadier General Lisa Howe, the Adjutant General, the 8,300 citizen soldiers in the Army of the state, and my family, it's an honor to be here with you today. And I want to share a little bit about, sorry to cover a little bit about the history of why we do this, but I think it's important to talk about it and remember. So Armistice Day was created as a public holiday in 1938, dedicated to World War I veterans. The act was amended in 1954, as we heard from Sarah, to establish every November 11th as Veterans Day, honoring American veterans of all the wars. Every year since then, the observance of Veterans Day recognizes and celebrates their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. This Veterans Day marks more than 100 years since an armistice between the Western Allies and the Central Powers brought an end to the destruction of the First World War. The August Madness of 1914 touched off a firestorm between nations. When the guns fell silent on November 11, 1918, more than 20 million military and civilian personnel lay dead and twice as many wounded. The 29th Division, which included New Jersey National Guard soldiers, put down their arms on the battlefields of northern France, near farmhouses and villages along the Moose River and the Argonne Forest. They would return home to New Jersey ports alongside more than 1 million American troops. 1 year later, President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day with the following words: "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service. The war showed us the strength of great nations acting together for high purposes, and the victory of arms foretells the enduring conquest which can be made in peace." World War I was a clash of old and new ideas and old and new technologies. At the time, it was the Great War, the war to end all wars, as we've heard before. It was a war where New Jersey played a vital role in history. Following the outbreak of hostilities in Europe in 1914, New Jersey's industrial centers formed a powerhouse of war production on the eastern seaboard. The state would become the largest producer of chemicals, ammunition, and artillery shells in the country. Mechanized warfare demanded New Jersey-made machinery, automobile parts, ships, and petroleum products. As the United States entered the war on April 6, 1917, the 104th Engineer Corps constructed Camp Dix in the heart of the Jersey Pine Barrens in anticipation of a surge of military draftees. That's where I work right now. There's 60,000 people that work on the Joint Base right now. The second largest employer of the whole state. It's an amazing complex. Additionally, more than 1/4 of the 4 million total recruits, volunteers, and conscripts in the American Expeditionary Force would ship up to the Western Front from Camp Merritt in Bergen County. Some of the New Jersey National Guard units we recognize today mustered in August of 1917 at Camp Edge in Seagirt, which is now the site of the modern-day Regional Training Center. We do a lot of training there a couple times a year. These units are the 113th and 114th Infantry Regiments, the 112th Field Artillery, and the 104th Engineers. This would be the first ever overseas deployment for National Guard soldiers in the history of the reserve component. By the war's end, more than 140,000 New Jerseyans had served in all branches of the armed forces. The conflict ushered in a new era of industrial combat, machine guns, mechanized warfare, tanks, airplanes for the first time in war, and chemical weapons. The dogfights above the trenches created an entirely new battle space and understanding of air power. In fact, the 177th Wing started out in 1917 in Europe, and the 108th Wing was Hobey Baker of Princeton grad, where the hockey championship every year, the trophy is named the Baker Award. Hobey Baker was the actual commander of the 108th, or actually the 141st Reconnaissance Squad in France, 1973, in history. Hundreds of thousands of New Jersey women mobilized for wartime service in munitions factories as Red Cross volunteers and nurses and as ambulance drivers. The country's wartime leader, President Woodrow Wilson, formerly the governor of New Jersey and president of Princeton University, cemented the position of American leadership on the world stage. Soldiers and airmen of the modern New Jersey National Guard raised their right hands with the expectation they will deploy, fight, and win the nation's wars. Tens of thousands of citizen soldiers and citizen airmen from New Jersey have deployed, many of them 2, 3, and multiple times. Thousands more have responded to missions at home. Natural disasters and civil disturbance alike, the National Guard always stands ready. As we reach the end of the peak Atlantic hurricane season, you can see a little bit of Nicole out here right now, and the 10th anniversary of Superstorm Sandy, the urgency of the hometown mission remains at the forefront of our minds. Even today, as we speak, hundreds of New Jersey citizen soldiers and citizen airmen are returning for a 2023 Joint Readiness Training Center rotation. There's a couple thousand going to overseas mobilization next January in 2024, and the Air Force is participating in what's called Agile Combat Deployment to defeat peer enemies across the Pacific. Many of our service members have been on duty throughout the last 2 years of COVID-19 and domestic ops, and yet they still raised their hand and said, send me. As soldiers and airmen endure multiple deployments to call to stay in active duty, it is imperative to all remember, New Jersey takes care of its veterans. The New Jersey Department of Military and Veterans Affairs provides critical resources for guardsmen and veterans in their time of need, always with the mission of serving those who serve. The department operates 3 long-term care facilities for veterans and their spouses. There's one in Paramus, Menlo Park, and Violin. We also have 2 facilities called Veterans Havens North and South. Those are back in Glen Gardner and Winslow. My old boss, General Kennedy, was one down at Veterans South. These Veterans Havens put troubled veterans back on their feet and back in the workforce. And then you have the Brigadier General William C. Dole Cemetery, many you've been to. It's in Hanover. That provides a final resting place for those men and women who put their lives in the line in the final defense of freedom. Let us remember those citizen soldiers and citizen airmen who have given service to their country. Let us also remember those who cannot be with us today. An account in the history of the 29th Division at the end of World War I states, one moment found the men, with ranks depleted, grimly marching forward. The next moment a message received. The word had been passed down the line, the armistice had been signed, and the war won. Facts upon which the heavy packs were grievously straightened up. Their thoughts span the Atlantic at a bound, and there sprang up immediately in every heart the desire for home. To them and to you, our veterans, we say thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Now we are going to have the Master Singers do a small performance for us. I think it's going to be the Armed Forces Medley. And this is a first to actually have music accompanying them. So as your branch is sung, you're welcome to stand and sing along. We'll see who's loudest.
First to fight for
We'll now have the solemn part of today's ceremony. Chief Johnson will bring the ceremonial flowers to the front of the stage along with General Ducko and Mayor Simon. It'll be followed by taps, which is, it is appropriate to stand and salute your uniform. And then we have a bagpipe rendition of Amazing Grace. Read then. Arms. If you'll remain standing, Chaplain Gilmore will come up here, who is also not only the chaplain of the police department, his own parish, but also a member of the Nicaragua Community.
I feel honored today, and my hopes that those who have served are honored. As a veteran myself of the U.S. Army, this is the day we set aside to really honor those, and I hope that you all feel honored today. Let us bow our heads for a closing prayer. Thank you, Lord, for this celebration that we have enjoyed to honor those who have served. God, we ask for you to help us to continue to remember to extend gratitude to those who have served our country. Fill our hearts with faith, hope, and love for one another, and love for our country. May our common desire to protect the peace and freedom around the world unite us to be one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us all say amen.
Amen.
All right, that is the end of our ceremony. I want to thank everyone for attending, and remember, it is being videotaped, so it'll be available. There's refreshments out there.